Virus is one of the most underrated Japanese movies I've ever seen. Just going right into this one. When people think of Japanese films, they'll usually default to Studio Ghibli. If you ask a film buff, they'll mention Akira Kurosawa. However, no one seems to mention Kinji Fukasaka, and for good reason. Apart from his last film, Battle Royale, none of his films are as well known or critically acclaimed as the films of Kurosawa, or Miyazaki, or etc. And I don't blame you either. He made the film Message from Space, which is an incredibly boring Star Wars ripoff for about 75 minutes of the runtime. Spoilers for the film, I guess. The villain, who wants to take over Earth, just blows up the moon as a warning to Earth. Okay. Where do I even start? I mean, I know, but I won't. But, like... Oh, and the madness doesn't even end there, because after the final battle, the people from Earth seem perfectly fine, completely ignoring the fact that the f***ing moon is destroyed. Hello? Earth is f***ed. Wait, I'm getting sidetracked. Point is, Message from Space is a crap film, and Virus is marginally better. Like, it's a massive improvement. You can't even compare the two, because they're, like not the same quality whatsoever. It's a massive improvement. Why is that, you're probably not asking? Well, let's find out. I need a break from Pixar after all. Virus takes place during 1982 and 1983, when a powerful experimental virus named MM88 is stolen, and while being transported in the air, the plane crashes and MM88 is launched. The rest of the film is broken up into parts. The first hour and a bit mainly focuses on the virus itself, its growth, and how it completely decimates the world's population, leaving only 863 survivors, bunkering down in Antarctica. The next act of the film mainly focuses on the survivors trying to live in the new world they've been thrust into. And the final act of the movie features a revelation, when the nuclear activation system was triggered just before the population died, and due to an earthquake that is rapidly increasing in strength, it will activate the ARS and send the nukes to the USSR, which will trigger the Soviets' ARS system. One of the nukes is headed straight for Palmer Station, where the majority of the survivors are. So it's now up to Dr. Shuzo Yoshizumi, a Japanese scientist, and Major Carter, an arrogant US major, to try and deactivate the ARS before it completely destroys the entire world, and destroys any chance of survival or repopulating the Earth after the virus completely disappears. The first hour of this movie is mainly why I deem it underrated, because it is the most scarily realistic look of a deadly virus taking over the world I've ever seen. Now, a virus of this magnitude would never and could ever exist in reality. I'm sure there are powerful viruses being created, but it's a lot easier to monitor companies experimenting on such dangerous things. However, what this film does is that it takes the unrealistic virus and plays the destruction of the world completely straight. For being sci-fi, it portrays this event as something that could happen in real life. It shows the panic and distress a lot of people go through, how chaotic hospitals are, and how selfish people will do anything in order to get healed. The image of all the mothers holding their sick children, all fighting to get into the hospital, is genuinely one of the most sickening things I've ever seen in a movie. It also perfectly sets up the next 1.5 hours of the movie, where all the decisions made on the other continent lead to the film's climax. I can't really think of any problems with the first hour. It shows different perspectives on the ever-present virus. It's perfectly paced, the music is haunting, the performances are realistic, and the atmosphere is incredibly tense throughout. I'd almost say if this film was just the first hour and a bit, I'd probably give it a 10, or at the very least a 9.5. However, the rest of the film exists, and it's still great, but considerably weaker than the first hour. In the second act, the film becomes way more philosophical, and about the characters and their inner struggles after the virus wipes everyone and everything out. The sheer hopelessness and despair portrayed in this latter part of the movie is very well done, which is a testament to the great acting. The performances from both the American and Japanese actors are great. Masao Kusakari, Sunehiko Watase, Glenn Ford, Henry Silva, Olivia Hussey, Robert Vaughn, Yumi Takigawa, Sony Chiba, etc. There are other actors that are great in the film, but if I tried listing them all, we'd be here all day. Actually, there are very few left. I just couldn't be arsed to tell you their names. Just look at the Wikipedia article for this movie. You'll see the other actors I didn't mention. Going to the more technical side of things, this film is incredibly well directed and a vast improvement over Fukasaka's previous work, almost feeling like the two are made by completely different filmmakers. The shots are well composed, and they're well edited as well. The cinematography is also great. Any movie that can make Antarctica look as good as it does is automatically a win. If I had a nickel for every time Toho made a movie set in Antarctica in the 1980s and it was over 2 hours long, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's rare that happened twice, right? Obviously, the best shot in the movie is this shot right here, and I'll get to it later. But right now, let me talk about other stuff. The score is very good, but not very memorable, and I probably won't go back to it. Certain pieces were especially haunting, and other were majestic, sometimes at the same time. The soundtrack is very much better than Message from Space, which repeated a lot of the same stings over and over and over again, and it made me lose my mind. But they were made by 2 different composers. Message from Space was composed by Kenichiro Morioka, and this was composed by Kentaro Haneda. By the way, if I butcher any of the names of the Japanese people, I'm very sorry. I don't know if you could tell, but I'm not Japanese. Not even close. I'm Irish-Spanish, so I'm just pronouncing the names the way I see them, plus using what little knowledge I have about the Japanese language. Now I'm going to talk spoilers for this next part, and I actually want you to watch this film. Go to the time frame in the description to skip this section of the video. Ready? Let's go! So Yoshizumi and Carter make it to the underground base, but while detonating a locked door, Carter gets stuck behind some rubble, and after the bomb explodes, he's impaled and it's up to Yoshizumi to stop the nukes. He doesn't, and the world pretty much ends, including the destruction of Palmer Station. The women and children, plus a few hundred men, were pushed onto a boat beforehand in order to escape, just in case Yoshizumi and Carter failed their mission. Spoilers, they did. A couple years later, Yoshizumi is roaming the apocalyptic landscape, and after we get the best shot in the movie, as seen in the poster as I said, he finds a few of the survivors, one of which is Olivia Hussey, who was in Black Christmas, which is probably the best slasher to ever exist. Please go and watch it. I'm begging you, please watch it. Wait, I'm getting sidetracked. Back to the point. I'm very conflicted on this ending. On one hand, I knew going in that the world just had to end in some way, so it wasn't very surprising for the most part. I say that because I was still at the edge of my seat during the ending climax, because there had to be a small glimmer of hope, just a small glimmer, that they stopped the nukes. But knowing the way this godforsaken movie is, I knew it. I just knew it just wasn't meant to be. But on the other hand, I felt like it could be the only way this film had to end, with the whole world ending as well. Granted, Yoshizumi does find survivors, which I think the audience needed. I know this comparison is incredibly rude and it might get completely by everyone because of it, but it's the first comparison that came to my head while writing this. It's like the shower scene from Schindler's List. That film has an unending sense of dread and despair throughout. We know from history that the Jews were led to what they believed were showers, but in actuality they were gas chambers. But seeing the Jewish women actually have a proper shower definitely lightened the load on an otherwise depressing film. Virus is kind of similar. Of course, in the actual story, they're nothing alike whatsoever. But the similarities come from the depressing tone throughout and how they each have moments that are basically saying, guys, you can breathe. The nightmare isn't over just yet, but there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Unlike films like Requiem for a Dream or United 93 or Mean Creek and The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, where they're just depressing all the way through. I know it seems like I just pulled this comparison and link out of my ass, but it was the first comparison my brain went to, so blame my brain, not me. Welcome back, non-spoiler people! The last aspect I want to talk about is a negative aspect, unfortunately. I mean, there are a few, like the slow pacing of the middle, the music not being memorable, but there's one aspect I want to talk about. It technically is a spoiler, and you're probably not wondering why I couldn't just attach it to the spoiler segment. I'll tell you why, because this plot point is genuinely so stupid and pointless, I need to tell you about it. But I won't say who it revolves around. I'll just say that this character has this fate. There's a character who is featured prominently in the first hour, and after everyone around her is dead, she takes off with the kid of her dead friend towards Antarctica, in hopes of finding her boyfriend. She never comes back into the movie, even when it looks like she will. The reason why this bothers me so much is because she's built up to be someone important when she really isn't. But honestly, it doesn't ruin the film for me that much, whatsoever. In conclusion, this film isn't talked about enough. The pacing is good for the most part, the direction is unique, the writing is interesting, the performances are great, the cinematography and editing are great. I said great twice. Cheers, me. The tone is unending in its misery, and the ending is grand and epic. Some elements are dumb, some characters are too over the top or don't matter, and the score is good, but not memorable. But the overall film is still a fantastic watch. Definitely a lower 9 out of 10 that I would usually give, and I definitely forgot to put the usual graphic for the 9 out of 10. I'm sure none of you care, but I think you still need to watch this film. I know this was a shorter review than usual. I'll get to that later, but finding this film is pretty easy, kind of. It's on YouTube right now, but the subtitles get delayed at around the 45-minute mark. So if you don't mind watching with delayed subtitles, then go ahead. But if you don't, then I don't know. I don't know what I can do for you. Find it on a pirated website that has subtitles. Like I said, this review was shorter than the usual ones I did, but don't worry. My next video will be potentially longer than the Win or Lose review. I'm so excited! Yeah! I can't wait to talk about some garbage ass films. Let's go! Woo!